Did you know Fotis Dulos in 2000? Well, did you know Fotis Dulos when he was alive?
Yes.
Could you tell us how you met him?
I met both Jennifer and Fotis Dulos in November of 2014 when I went to the offices at Ford Jefferson Crossing, the Ford Group.
Who was living there at that time?
Jennifer, Fotis, and the 5 children.
Did you communicate at the time with Jennifer Dulos?
Yes.
Did Stefan as well?
Yes.
Did you communicate with Fotis at that time?
Yes.
Well, how would you describe your interaction with Jennifer Dulos during that time?
I'm going to object, Your Honor.
How would you describe your interaction with Jennifer Dulos at that time?
Okay.
Ground.
Relevance, we're talking about 2014 interaction with Jennifer Dulos, the alleged victim in this case, Your Honor. It's not relevant.
Well, unless the inquiry is going to go beyond 2014, it's not relevant.
I understand. This is a preliminary when they met, and I'm going to then progress. So,
The court will overrule the objection.
Do you want me to describe the moment I met her, or do you want me to describe the
I'm looking
totality
for
of my
the
experience?
general demeanor of the interaction.
Friendly, welcoming. She was very happy that Stefan and I were in a relationship, which was brand new in November of 2014. And the relationship expanded and our interactions evolved from there.
After that, did you become aware at some time that Jennifer had moved out?
Yes.
So before she moved out, was there any change in the way you interacted with her in terms of demeanor, what the relationship with you was?
The relationship became less of a slight acquaintance to a much more friendly relationship. We did socialize at dinners. I found her to be extremely supportive during some difficult circumstances in Stefan and my collective life. I found her to be very intelligent. One of the first times we had a more intimate conversation when we were alone at the home, she used the term effusive. And as a lover of lexicon, I kind of appreciated that a great deal. So the interactions were always warm and friendly and welcoming.
And when was the last time that you spoke with Jennifer?
I would say perhaps late, maybe very early 2017. I don't recall exactly, but it was certainly not after she left the marital home.
So before she left?
Correct.
Did your children interact and play together as well with her children?
Not on a regular basis. My children all ski. Stefan was a competitive skier. I'm a skier, and all the children skied. The Dulos children skied, and as did Fotis. So we would find each other together on the mountain, and we would ski together when my boys were very young.
So let's be, I want to be clear. We're talking about skiing on a mountain. We're not talking about water skiing.
Correct.
Right. So
Winter
in addition to water
I can't get up.
skiing, there was competitive downhill alpine skiing?
Correct.
And the Dulos children were involved in that?
Correct.
And Stefan's son was involved in that?
I don't recall exactly, but we would usually go as a family when the kids were little.
Did you ever meet Michelle Troconis?
I did.
What were the circumstances of you meeting her?
Fotis and Jennifer had left the house. Fotis and Jennifer had begun their, I don't know if it was legal separation at the time, but their separation. And to be blunt, we kind of got Fotis in the divorce, if you want to put it that way, because he was local and he and Stefan still had business dealings. Mm-hmm. And I think our first interaction was we had a sushi dinner together where we were introduced. And I think we were asked to be there for that dinner because Fotis wanted maybe a safe space to introduce Michelle.
How would you describe your meeting with Michelle? How did that go?
Fine, very engaging, worldly woman. Just getting to know somebody. It was friendly.
Did do you speak Spanish?
Poorly. I did when I was in Barcelona.
How long were you in Barcelona for?
12 days?
12 days.
Yes.
Okay. So
Approximately.
you didn't live there for a year.
No. We travel a lot, and I try and learn the language for the country that we're going to.
Did you communicate with Michelle in English or in Spanish?
English.
Did you have any difficulty communicating with her in English?
No.
Were there words that you didn't know sometimes?
Nothing that sticks out.
Okay. So in any event, you socialized with Stefan and Fotis with Michelle
Correct.
over what period of time? Over how long a period of time?
From our primary meeting in 2017 until May of 2019.
When you said that you inherited, or whatever word you used, Fotis in the divorce, did you ever talk about his divorce in your presence?
He spoke about judicial matters and some frustrating elements about those judicial matters, but I think he learned very early on that neither Stefan nor I would welcome any negative commentary about Jennifer. So it was really mostly about his experience during the judicial process and his frustrations with it.
I just want to follow up on that. Had you expressed some disapproval of hearing negative things from him about Jennifer?
We never said it outright, but I think if anything was perhaps started or proffered, it was obvious that we weren't interested in engaging any type of communication like that.
Do you recall there was a specific invite to dinner with Fotis and Michelle in May, specifically on May 23rd, 2009?
I do.
What do you recall about the circumstances of that invite occurring? That is before the dinner itself. Like, how did the invitation get sent out and accepted, if you recall?
I think it was probably just a text request by Fotis to Stefan, and then we attended.
Do you know, or can you tell us whether or not Stefan had a habit with regard to being on time for things?
Stefan is militantly punctual, so yes.
Is that more, the way you said, is more so than yourself?
He's very, very punctual on all matters.
And if the invitation was for a specific time, did you and Stefan arrive on or before that time?
We would have arrived either at the specific time or a couple moments before.
Could you tell us, by the way, do you recall arriving at, or do you recall driving to 4 Jefferson Crossing for that social evening?
I did not drive. Stefan was driving the car, but yes.
Do you recall seeing someone that is Fotis outside the house before you got there?
Yes, as we were pulling into the entrance to Jefferson Crossing, it's gated to a degree. He was pulling out, and we didn't collide, but we were parallel, and we rolled the window down and said, "Hey, where are you going?" And it almost seemed like maybe he had forgotten we were going to be there. And then he said something about an errand and left. And then we proceeded to 4 Jefferson.
Was there anyone else either with him or following him out of the intersection there?
I do recall that there was a vehicle that was following him, but I don't remember exactly who it was or what vehicle it was. I'm not 100% certain.
During the time that you were involved with Stefan earlier on in this relationship, would you spend any time at the Fort Jefferson Crossing offices meeting any of the other employees?
Yes.
Do you recall whether the person that was following was an employee?
It could have been.
You
If I don't know
remember?
who the person is, I don't exactly remember who it
Okay,
was. I'm
so let
sorry.
me move on from that. When Fotis said that he'd be right back, did he come right back?
I don't exactly remember the length of time, but he was back in due course, a very short period of time.
Can you tell us did you continue on and go into into Fort Jefferson Crossing?
Yes, after we exchanged communication with Fotis, we pulled Stefan's car through the porte cochere, parked on the French trellis portion of the driveway, and then proceeded into the house.
And just for those of us who don't know French, the porte cochere is the archway that separates the two garages on the left from the two garages on the right.
It's the archway, yes, the porte
Okay.
cochere.
So when you arrived, did you go right into the house?
I think we went to the door of the mudroom that was adjacent to the kitchen and announced our arrival somehow, and I probably brought something. I don't usually go empty-handed, so it was probably a bottle of wine or something, and put that on the counter. And I think Michelle greeted us in the kitchen. I
Do you
don't
recall
remember.
hearing her before seeing her?
Yes, the window was cracked. The window to the right of the door was cracked a little bit, and I heard her kind of speaking to herself.
In what language?
Spanish, I believe.
And when you came into the house, how did she react when she saw you?
Well, she knew we were coming because we were there specifically to see something of hers.
And what was that?
We were going to see some rugs, and she had been carrying them and laying them out. There were some in the TV room adjacent to the kitchen, so it was kind of like pathway from the kitchen to the TV room area. And then there were also some in the offices upstairs, and I imagine they were probably heavy, so she was probably a little flustered, and that might have been what I heard through the window.
Is the reason you were looking at these rugs at that time?
Yes, I actually have 3 of those types of rugs in my house, but they're cream and silver, and Michelle didn't have that in her inventory at the time, I don't believe, but it was an aesthetic we were interested in.
And were these being laid out for what, so you could look at them?
Yes.
You said some were laid out where were they laid out downstairs?
In the room adjacent to the kitchen, it had very large sectional, a television, and I don't recall any other details about the room.
Did you say you also went up to the office?
We did.
And were there other rugs to look at up there?
Correct.
Were they already spread out for you to look at?
Yes.
Would you describe her demeanor while you were there?
Yeah, she was telling us about the rugs. It was normal. She was happy we were there to see what she was selling for her new business and the support. She explained the details, where they were sourced from, and maybe where she was selling them currently, but I don't recall specifically.
Did you eat there that night?
We did.
Do you remember what you had?
It's a meal often repeated. So it was grilled meats and fresh French fries, because they had a French fry maker in the grill outside, and a Greek salad.
You say grilled meat. Was that a Greek thing you said it was a common meal?
Yeah, it was a common meal with Fotis at his home.
Okay. How would you describe the tenor of that evening and the meal?
positive, jovial, relaxed.
Did another couple come?
Yes,
Do you remember who that was?
yes.
Who was that?
Hutch Haynes and his wife, I believe it's Mary Ellen. I haven't seen her since that day.
If her name was maybe Aaron, might that
Yes.
ring a bell?
Thank you.
Yes, that's
Yes,
correct.
thank you.
Okay. And when they arrived, did anything change, or was it the same atmosphere?
No, it was the same atmosphere, just maybe a bit bigger.
Do you recall whether at any point Fotis left the house? You said he came back in due course, was what you said before, right?
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Did he leave again to run an errand?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
He had prepared or taken some meat out for the dinner and realized that there wasn't enough perhaps for everybody and went to buy some more.
Did he say where he was going?
Not that I recall.
Do you know how long he was gone for? The second time.
I don't know, but it probably wasn't that long.
What were the subject? Did people talk during dinner?
Yes.
What did they talk about?
General topics. Hutch has a ski pond he's very passionate about, so we talked about that, obviously. I had never met them before, so it was an opportunity to learn more about them. We talked travel and politics and current events and interests, the general kind of banter at a dinner.
Did that bottle of wine you mentioned get open?
Yes, and I believe there are a couple more.
All right. Were there any toasts that evening?
Yes.
Could you just describe that?
We learned that evening that, or I should speak for myself. I heard that evening that Fotis had been at Jennifer's home in New Canaan with the children, and that experience and their interpersonal reactions to each other was very amicable, which we were very glad to hear. And he had also stated that the custodial evaluation.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, any testimony about what Fotis Dulos said about the custodial report or the investigation is not admissible. And follow up, counsel.
So without getting into what the custodial report said, what was the mood regarding the toast? What was the toast about?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is clearly asking for hearsay.
Well, the preliminary question is, was the toast about what was in the custodial investigation or the custodial report? And then the court can act on the objection. If that's the question you wish to ask, counsel, you may.
Yes. What was the toast?
I don't know any words that were particularly said, but the general sentiment that I recall was a feeling of excitement that there was going to be positive resolution for them both during what I knew to be a very difficult custody battle, which despite which side you're on, it's very, very difficult for either parent and very difficult for the children. And the sentiment was that maybe this was going to end and there would be more peace.
And how did you react? What was your reaction? You happy?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Relevance, counsel.
Well, the fact that she heard something and reacted to it is the purpose of these.
Well,
this
the
question.
jury can draw no probative value from this witness's reaction to what Fotis Dulos said, sustained.
Was there any negative comments whatsoever said about Jennifer during this dinner?
No.
Was the entire evening a positive and hopeful evening?
Yes.
Was that true even after you finished the dinner?
Yes.
Was that true after you finished the toast?
Yes.
At any time, did you see Mr. Dulos act in any surreptitious or underhanded manner during that dinner?
No.
Anything that stood out as being odd?
Just that when we drove in, he was driving out, and he almost seemed like he had forgotten we were coming.
Okay, but you said that that wasn't odd for him.
I don't know if I actually said that, but it's often that, in my experience with men, if you're a host of something, you might forget sometimes.
Okay. And how was Michelle's attitude that evening, her demeanor during that dinner?
Engaging, friendly, positive.
At any time, did you see her act in any strange way or leave the room in any surreptitious way?
Not that I recall.
Did she join in the toast?
I don't know how many hands were in the center, but I imagine she did.
Were people laughing?
I don't exactly recall.
Were people smiling?
Yes.
Do you recall whether you were the last to leave or whether the Haynes left before you?
The Haynes left before us.
So if you arrived at, what time did you arrive?
5 o'clock.
And what time did you stay until?
I think it was around 10:30.
And you said the Haynes left before you. Do you remember how much sooner?
I don't recall.
Did you, after dinner, did you help with anything?
Yes, Michelle and I cleared the table and worked on the dishes. And I'm not quite sure what Stefan and Fotis were doing.
All right, but did you chat with Michelle while you were doing the dishes?
Yes.
And what was the tenor of that conversation?
Nothing negative. Nothing that would bring me pause.
And was it upbeat?
Yes.
Do you recall, I'll withdraw it, never mind. Even now, almost 5 years later, is there anything in hindsight that you think was strange or odd during the dinner, during the time that Fotis was present in the house or Michelle was in the house, that with 20/20 hindsight would make you think differently about that dinner?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. You've described what it was like, how you felt, how it seemed that it was going. Now, 5 years later, with this case going on and all that has been in the media since then, is there anything in hindsight that you think was odd or about that dinner that you didn't bring up at all?
About that dinner, no.
Yes, or that evening?
No.